Six Flags Magic Mountain, located in Valencia, California, is home to the most roller coasters in one park at an incredible 19. They used to have 20 until it was announced that Superman Escape from Krypton, the park's tallest and fastest coaster, would be closing for good at the beginning of 2025. There are, however, already plans in place for a coaster that will bring the count back to 20. During my 2-day visit to the park, I got to ride 17 of their 19 operating coasters, including all but Magic Flyer and Speedy Gonzales Hot Rod Racers. I can confidently say that this park has an elite lineup containing coasters that every level of thrill seeker can enjoy. Naturally, with the park of this scale, I have to rank all the coasters up, so come with me as I give my ranking on the roller coasters of Six Flags Magic Mountain. Coming in last place at number 17 is Roadrunner Express, a Vekoma Junior coaster opened in 2011. This is a cloned kiddie coaster that you could find at quite a few other parks, but I thought this one was fairly well themed compared to others, giving it just a little something extra. It is also pretty smooth and comfortable. I find that some of these kiddie coaster credits can be a bit tough at times since I don't usually fit in the trains well and some of them can be pretty janky. But this model from Vekoma is probably the most comfortable of the junior coaster models I've ridden. Number 16 is Canyon Blaster, an E&F Miler family coaster opened in 1999. I normally find these E&F Miler coasters too janky and painful to enjoy, but this one wasn't as bad. It's definitely a rougher ride than Roadrunner Express, but I thought it was more fun and even had a bit of airtime thrown in there. Number 15 is Gold Rusher, an Aero mine train opened in 1971. This is Magic Mountain's oldest coaster that opened with the park on May 29, 1971. This is one of the better mine trains in my opinion, as it has a solid layout along with not being too rough. It runs fairly well for being as old as it is, and that helix at the end is one of my favorite moments on any of the mine trains I've ridden. Coming in at number 14, I have New Revolution, a Schwarzkopf looping coaster opened in 1976. This is easily the most tame of the thrill coasters offered by Magic Mountain, but that doesn't make it a bad ride by any means. It navigates a series of drops and turns before coming to a crawl and descending a long shallow drop into the one vertical loop on the coaster. It's a nice picturesque moment and kind of just adds something extra to that loop. I've always been of the opinion that Schwarzkopf coasters like this are great for someone looking to go upside down on a coaster for the first time. At number 13 is Scream, a B&M floorless coaster opened in 2003. This ride is disappointing as it has a very fun looking layout but just doesn't make good use of it. You start by going up 150 feet before going into the 7 inversion layout at 63 miles an hour. On paper, Scream is a great ride covering nearly 4,000 feet of track, however it just doesn't really ride that well. I went in through it not feeling very much at all in terms of forces. Any positive G's I got were quite tame and there was no whip in the inversions in the front or back rows. Despite hearing a lot of other people say that it runs rough, I actually thought it was quite smooth and a comfortable ride. Maybe if Scream was just like 5 or 10 feet taller, it'd have enough speed to rip through its course, making it a borderline star attraction. Number 12 is Ninja, an aerodynamic suspended coaster opened in 1988. This coaster is interesting as the station is located at the top of a hill, making it very tough and annoying to get to. It starts with a very short chain lift before navigating its layout that runs down the hillside. This allows the coaster to pick up quite a bit of speed on its way down, making it the fastest suspended coaster in the world with a speed of 55 miles an hour. Then due to the location of the station, it actually has a larger lift hill at the end of the ride to bring the train back to the station level, so definitely not your traditional layout. This is actually a very fun coaster despite being ranked this low and is a testament to how many awesome rides Magic Mountain has. Number 11 is Batman the Ride, a B&M invert opened in 1994. Even though I love a good Batman clone, I only rode this once on my trip to save time for other more unique rides. It takes you down a 105-foot drop at 50 miles an hour and throws you into 5 very snappy inversions and a bone-crushing helix at the end that is sure to make the blood rush to your feet. After riding this coaster, I came off with the opinion that it isn't nearly as good as some of the other Bat clones I've done, like the ones at Six Flags Over Georgia, Great America, and Fiesta Texas. It was still a solid ride, but the inversions weren't as snappy as I was used to, and the intensity just wasn't there, so I came off of this just ever so slightly disappointed. Starting off our top 10 is Viper, an Aero Megalooper opened in 1990. Aero built a few of these Megaloopers in the late 80s and early 90s, and Viper is the last one of them left standing. This 188-foot tall 7 inversion coaster is a very fun ride that ran a lot better than I was expecting it to. As many of us know, most of the old aero loopers usually give rough and unpleasant rides, but I didn't find that to be the case here. Aside from one moment at the high point of the first vertical loop that gave me some whiplash, I thought Viper ran pretty smooth throughout its layout. And call me crazy, but I'm a fan of these old aero trains as I don't really experience headbanging on them, and the inside of it is very spacious, making them more comfortable than a lot of other coaster trains out there. This coaster is probably in the most danger of shutting down in the future given its age and the fate of its sister coasters, but I certainly hope they find a way to keep it open for many years to come. Coming in at number 9, we have Riddler's Revenge, a B&M stand-up coaster opened in 1998. I've ridden all three of the old school B&M stand-ups still operating in the US, and this one is by far the best in terms of stats and ride experience. I find that while the stand-up position isn't the most comfortable, the coaster as a whole runs quite smooth and takes every one of its 6 inversions quite forcefully. The 2 rides I got on my trip made me a really big fan of this ride, and it honestly feels weird to be ranking it this low on the list. I feel as though this would be a top 4 or even top 3 coaster at most other parks, as it kinda gets buried at the back of Magic Mountain. I think this being a stand-up does give Riddler's Revenge a nice and unique feel, and I'm very glad that Magic Mountain also has Scream, meaning that there's no chance of this being converted to a floorless. It's a great stand-up, and that's how it's gonna stay. If you're able to deal with the stand-up position, then you're absolutely going to love this ride. Number 8 is Goliath, a Giovanola hypercoaster opened in the year 2000. Due to Cedar Point being a seasonal park that doesn't open until around May, Goliath opened as the tallest coaster on Earth with a 255-foot drop and was able to hold the record for a few months until Cedar Point opened Millennium Force later that year. Few coasters are more hated on by enthusiasts than this one. It's said to be quite forceless and boring, which I could definitely understand after riding it. However, Goliath does have some redeeming factors that make it a fun ride to me. First of all, it's one of the most comfortable coasters out there. You don't feel cramped at all on the train, and the lap bars will almost never staple you. Even with the lack of airtime, the ride hits a top speed of 85 miles an hour, giving it an excellent sense of speed to the riders. And lastly, even with that mid-course brake run that slows the train to a near stop, the helix at the end is very intense and had me nearly blacking out both times I rode it. It isn't the greatest design ever, but Goliath can definitely be appreciated for what it is. Number 7 is Wonder Woman Flight of Courage, an RMC Raptor opened in 2022. While the park's newest coaster is a solid addition, these larger RMC Raptors like Flight of Courage and Jersey Devil A Great Adventure have some of the worst restraints I've ever felt. I don't know if it's just me, but they jab into my legs during every airtime moment and make me dread all of the great airtime that I should be enjoying. I originally had this much lower on my list because my first ride was so painful that I didn't enjoy it at all. Luckily, I gave it another chance the following day and it had much more comfortable ride experience and was able to enjoy the layout a lot more. These Raptors have great layouts with abundant airtime, smooth inversions, and that wonderful zero-G stall. Unfortunately, I'll probably never be able to rank this higher unless they improve the restraints someday. At number 6 we have West Coast Racers, a premier quasi-Mobius loop coaster opened in 2020. This is one of those rides that isn't all that intense but is just pure fun. You get to duel with the other train every single time on both the white and yellow sides of the track. It's a very smooth ride with some fun inversions and a nice launch halfway through each side. The coaster being a quasi-Mobius loop means that while it may look like 2 coasters, it's actually one very long track that you get to ride all the way through in one go that's just built in a way that allows you to race another train. The dueling aspect of the course elevates this coaster a lot with the added fun of racing the other train throughout the layout, and it seems to be pretty much a coin flip as to which side will win each time. The only bad thing I can say about this ride is that those premier trains are very tight when trying to get in and out. The seats themselves are pretty spacious and comfortable, but for some reason they decided to give you like 2 inches of space to step on and off the train. It's kind of hard to explain unless you've experienced it yourself. Number 5 is Twisted Colossus, a quasi-Mobius RMC iBox hybrid opened in 2015. It's kind of crazy that as uncommon as they are, Six Flags Magic Mountain has 2 of these quasi-Mobius loop coasters. This one being built by RMC is naturally a much more thrilling ride than West Coast Racers, but it unfortunately has some flaws that cause it to be my least favorite of the iBox RMCs that I've ridden. Now don't get me wrong, this is still a very fun coaster with some great elements like the High Five and Top Gun stall. However, despite it having dueling tracks, it did not duel at all for either of my rides, and from what I've heard it rarely duels at all anymore, severely hurting the ride experience. Next, while I always appreciate a long ride, the long lift hill in between each coaster section just kills it for me, and it kinda sucks when you're dealing with that near triple digit dry heat of California. Aside from those things, Twisted Colossus has no shortage of airtime and other fun moments like most RMCs, and is easily good enough to break the top 5. Number 4 is Apocalypse, a GCI wooden coaster opened in 2009. I will always love a good GCI, and this ride is no different. Apocalypse is a very fast-paced, out-of-control coaster with plenty of rapid-fire airtime and lateral moments throughout its layout. It weaves through its structure, multiple tunnels, and does a flyby through the station throughout its nearly 3,000 feet of track, adding some nice aesthetic to the ride. There is just the right amount of roughness on the track to give it that nice wooden coaster rumble without making the ride painful or unenjoyable in any way. And those Millennium Flyer trains are some of the best trains out there, being fairly unrestrictive and having comfortable lap bars. You can almost always count on a GCI to be a fun ride, while Apocalypse is one of their more middle-of-the-road coasters. It certainly delivers a fun-filled experience. Number 3 is going to be Full Throttle, a Premier Skyrocket 3 opened in 2013. Even though this ride is very short, it packs a punch throughout its 2,200 feet of track. It launches you from 0 to 70 miles an hour straight into the tallest vertical loop on this side of the globe and gives riders one of the best hang time moments that can be found on a roller coaster. It then maneuvers a few twists and turns before coming to a stop in a cave. I hadn't seen any POVs of this coaster before riding it, so the backward launch that followed this took me by surprise before going back through it forward up into a giant hill that is on top of that massive vertical loop. Unfortunately, that is where the ride comes to an end after dropping off that hill, leaving something to be desired. If Full Throttle just had some more track length, it could be a contender for the best coaster in the park, and it currently just doesn't have that. This is still a super fun coaster with a punchy launch to start and some great elements to follow, while all being very smooth and comfortable throughout. Coming in at the number 2 spot, we have Tatsu, a B&M flying coaster opened in 2006. The tallest and fastest flying coaster in North America is also by far the best one. It starts up by taking you up what is, in my opinion, the scariest lift hill out there, as the track goes up while the elevation of the hill goes down and you're being forced to stare straight at the ground through it. Now, I'm not one to be scared of roller coasters, but going up that lift hill is an actual nerve-wracking moment for sure. You then get some amazing views of the entire park, since the coaster is located on a hill on top of a mountain at the center of the park. After going through the first 2 inversions and doing some sightseeing, you're then thrown into the 124-foot tall pretzel loop, which is one of the most wicked intense moments that you will find on a coaster anywhere. If you think pretzel loops on the Superman Ultimate Flight cones are crazy, then this one is over 1.5 times the height, so just let that sink in. You then maneuver one more inline twist before the ride comes to an end, bringing the total amount of inversions up to 4. I didn't come into my Magic Mountain trip expecting to rank Tatsu this high, but it far exceeded my expectations and ended up being second only to X2, the Aero 4th Dimension coaster that opened in 2002. Oh my goodness, did this ride live up to the hype and more. X2 is bottom line one of the most twisted and ridiculous coasters a person could ever ride. That first drop with the seats rotating to face you straight down is one of the best drops of all time. Unlike S&S 4D free spins, which I hate, the spinning on this coaster is controlled, making it for a much better ride experience. It's easily one of the most innovative and ambitious projects of all time, so ambitious that its manufacturer, Aerodynamics, ended up going bankrupt while building it. It's kind of hard to explain the ride experience when you just don't know where you are or what's going on the entire time. X2 is the first roller coaster that you see when driving up to Magic Mountain, and it sets the tone for the amazing coaster lineup at this park. After just my first ride, it easily made its way into my overall top 10, and it should stay that way for a while. Well, that about finishes it out. Let me know where you agree or disagree with my list. Magic Mountain is an awesome park and should definitely be on the bucket list of any coaster enthusiast. If you enjoy content like this and love coasters like I do, make sure to subscribe so you can see more videos like this. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.